I grew up in Virginia. My father was a college professor. And when I was growing up, I lived in the college library because that's where all the knowledge was. It wasn't online. When I started doing all kinds of other things, and did all the traditional things: paperboy, cut lawns, you know, shoveled driveways, and then I got into the restaurant business, where I found it was, I guess, my first career. I spent 7 years in it, mostly in the high-end French space, lighting stuff on fire, creating a show for people, that a memorable experience that they could walk away with and say, I love that, and I want to come back and do it again. And I got to teach people how to do that too. And then I did restaurant consulting, where we went out to set up themes for restaurants. I brought in a bunch of people from the Glee Club at the University of South Carolina who could sing opera, and I built an Italian restaurant that was built around singing waiters and waitresses. I went to work for the Stevens family of Stevens Investments, who many people know. I was privately tutoring the daughter of Whit Stevens, who was the founder of Stevens Investments. And his brother became the chairman of Augusta National. So they were pretty well-to-do family. And I went to work instead of going to work for them, I did that for about a year, and then they sent me to work at a software company that they owned, which was called Systematic. It was a big bank data processing company, a competitor to Hogan Systems and EDS back in the day. Very small startup, and it grew astronomical, shall we say, and rapidly, and it was great. I had actually gotten my start in technology back in 1969 when my dad was one of the, I would say, legendary people in the field of statistics and economics. He found that the Industrial Organization Society, so antitrust and monopoly work, concentration analysis was something he was great at. He got his love for that. He was a math nerd in high school growing up in Eastern Washington. And his first job was in the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War II, where he was stationed in Bermuda. Why would you be stationed in Bermuda? To help predict the weather for D-Day. And then he went to work, he taught at the Naval War College after he got his PhD. The GI Bill got him all the way through, and after the Naval War College, he went to the Federal Trade Commission, where he was the head of the Bureau of Statistical Research after in the Kennedy administration and then for Johnson. After that, he moved to Virginia Tech, and that's when I was 10, all of his graduate students, he ran the graduate economics program at Virginia Tech, and his graduate students would go home in the summer. And so he goes, can you type it? And I was like, why? He goes, oh, these things called cards, and I need them punched. So at 10, I became a key punch kid writing multiple linear regression analysis in SAS. And so, and I lived in the data center at the college, and I, all the way through, then going to college and then coming out and working for Systematic. So with me, they sent me up to New York City to work at Republic National Bank, which was one of the truly legendary banks. It was run by a guy whose name was Edmund Safra. He was of Lebanese Jew, probably the smartest banker I ever met in my entire life. He must not have been a good man at some time, though, because his butler lit his penthouse apartment in Monte Carlo on fire, and he died in that fire. He was incredibly smart, and he brought us in to implement bank profitability analysis for them, because he was so focused on profitability, and they were one of the few banks in the world, we're talking 1982, 1983, that actually had cost basis for everything that they did. So you could actually properly understand what that profitability analysis was. So I put that in, modified it for multi-currency. It was our first systematic multi-currency application. Then they took my mods and put them back into mainline code. And about a year later, Merrill Lynch came and asked me if I'd like to come work for them. And I spent 15 years at Merrill in New York and London. I worked across every piece of the business, did some really great projects, worked on, and they had a communal strategy they put together for us. I guess it was around about 1991, and they took every person that was middle-level manager all the way up to the most executive ranks and put us through 6 weeks of training at Harvard with John Cotter, who's probably one of the greatest people to teach on leadership ever in the history of the world. His book on leadership is one that I give to almost every young manager that I ever work with to try to convert them into a leader from being a manager. They set out this strategy for us as a company. We were going to be the first company in the world to have $1 trillion in assets under management. This was their vision in 1991. No one was even close. And this is why I ended up working on all these international M&A transactions where we would go out, look at these companies, do the due diligence, and then they'd toss them over to the technology people to integrate. And so we did a lot of those. One of those culminated with, it was a 27 country merger that we did with a company called Smith Newcourt. They were the largest British stockbroking company at the time. We pulled them in. It increased our presence in almost every major and minor market in the world. And as part of that transaction, I was sent to London to manage technology across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. We were still doing a lot of work and converting exchanges off of paper to electronics back at the time. From there, I moved to San Francisco with my family and went to Robertson Stevens, which was a legendary investment bank in the Valley, one of the four horsemen of the Valley, as they used to call it. Had a great run there. Our parent company, Fleet Bank, they bought Bank Boston, and we came over in that transaction. Bank Boston was very white shoe, white glove, Boston, Brahmin kind of. And the guys from Fleet were all back day Irish guys with knowledge. Anyway, from there, I went to Allstate Insurance as CIO and COO for their financial services business in Chicago. Spent 8 years there. Then I moved to Aflac for a couple of years in Georgia. And then after that, I became the CEO of a software startup company. It was based out of Philadelphia, but I was flying back and forth from Columbus. And also when I came to Austin, I was doing that for a while. 9 years ago, I founded a medical device company, co-founded medical device profile. We'll come back to that as well. And then I ran I was a managing partner for Ecliptic Capital, as Chris mentioned, which is a venture capital fund here in Austin. And then last year, Kurt Stunk, who's the CEO of the company that I'm with now, I had hired him out of college in 2001 to work for me at Robertson Steve. He was a Schreier honors grad, and that was one of the names I mentioned earlier. He was the CDO of Niche when we built cloud computing, the first rollouts of things like Microsoft Windows at large scale. We were the largest rollout ever. 40,000 desktops was the biggest rollout of Windows at that point in time. And Microsoft wrote Windows NT and Internet Explorer for us so that we could actually have stable operating systems, sort of stable. It took us a while to figure out some pretty cool technology, some new science actually to how to do blood pressure from the side of the neck without a cuff. So we figured out how to do that, or he did, and it was a brilliant job. And then we were voted to the FDA. We were the darling of the military, and then COVID happened. And so the FDA canceled all of our clinical trials. If you could do them in person, I was like, well, how do you do a clinical trial if you can't do it in person? That was kind of difficult. We're also working with we have a whole series of grants that are called SBIRs and STTRs, and people may know what they are. They're small business funding opportunities for people to develop new things for the government. And we had 7 SBIRs canceled when Delta variant hit in 1 month and lost $1.5 million. The hardware didn't really support this in terms of what we were able to build until about 6 or 7 years ago, when accelerometers and all of the other types of chips that are in your phones, your Oura rings, your Whoops, or whatever you wear, were miniaturized enough to the point where we could get something that's like this. And this is a continuous vital signs monitor. It applies to the side of the neck and clips onto your ear. And within 75 seconds, it performs triage against all the other people that are being monitored at that point in time. And it tells the medic, red, yellow, green, what he has to do to get that person. We figured out it really applies to anybody in this room, anytime in your life, in almost any situation. From the time that you don't feel well to the time that you do feel well, you should probably have something on like this. A lot of you are probably wearing a continuous glucose monitor right now. But that's changed medicine for people that are diabetic. And it's one vial scene. We capture almost 100 off the body. And we feed it to you continuously, and we see the things that they miss in the gaps. So it's a fascinating product. If anybody wants to talk more about it, I won't belabor the point. But we think it's going to change medicine, and it's going to save a lot of lives. It's been deployed in Israel with the IDF. We're heavily involved with the Navy, the Air Force, the Army right now, and Special Forces in terms of working through some early contracts with them, but also we've been working with requirements writers for the Army in terms of they're the people that tell everybody else what they have to do. And they love our device. And so that's getting worked into different Army procedures, and we're starting to see buying out of the military. So it's pretty exciting. And then I guess the last thing I'll touch on, just not to run on all night, is I'm working on a television show right now, and a book. And the TV series is about a series of books that were brought out by Time Life magazine back in the 60s. And it was 27 volumes. And what these books were is they went country by country, region by region in each of those countries, and they looked at food and the people that lived there. So they were really travelogues. They were Rick Steves plus Anthony Bourdain plus whoever your favorite food person is. And they would look at what the culture was like. There was 54 actual books. Today you can go to HEB and get sushi. Even if you're in some little town in Texas, how did that happen? Well, the first book that anybody had ever seen how to make sushi was the Japanese book from this series where they showed you how to make sushi. And my dad and his buddies used to have all these parties, like the Russia New York would come out, and they'd all take one or two recipes, and then they throw these big parties, and then it'd just be learning about the world. I think I'm giving back to society now because we can save a lot of lives and help people. So it's really we're doing something for a higher mission at this point. It had more impact on me than probably anything else I ever did. It was more impactful on me than going to college. Waiting tables and trying to provide superlative experiences to people definitely color the way I look. And people will know that I'm to a certain degree, a pleaser. I like people in a room to be happy and to be engaged and to enjoy what they're doing. And when you have the opportunity to do that in restaurants, it can be magical for people, and it was magical for me. If you're doing the right thing, you're treating people with respect, they will climb mountains for you. They will do the most incredible things because they know that they're helping everybody that they work with. They're helping that company's customers and their clients. It's about making great strategy and then good execution that goes along with it, but being very respectful or in a way is always one of the things I've tried to do about.